Evening, morning, and afternoon, everyone, wherever you are. I hope you're having a wonderful week, wherever you are. We are here with the latest episode of the Inside Crypto Show, interviews and discussions with regular people just like yourselves. Today's guest is definitely not regular. We are joined by Elena, who's leading Metis, a layer 2 blockchain working to provide a completely decentralized infrastructure to support the emerging Web3 economy. With over $50 million raised by the end of 2022, Metis has over 130,000 wallets in their infrastructure with over $100 million in total value locked. Most of you guys who are fans of the podcast would know who Metis is, so I'm going to stop there. Elena, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time, especially on a Friday. Tell us about yourself, wherever you want to start.
First of all, thank you so much for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here. So my name is Elena SineInikova. Currently, yes, I am one of the leaders in the Metis ecosystem and Metis Layer 2 as well. So we are building a decentralized platform for the Web3 economy. We've been building already for a few years. But before that, my background is I am a software engineer by profession. And back when I came to Canada 25 years ago, now I started working at the Canadian government and also law enforcement at the police to create all those systems that right now they use in the cars, and the system that doing police information check, and the systems that are meeting management system for city councils in Canada. So I had a quite extensive background of designing enterprise software. And later on, when I was was a little bit tired of my daytime job, and was a very good job with very comfortable. I get probably too comfortable, and I decided to change that. And I went into blockchain. So basically, I was brought by my friend into blockchain, Natalia, and just one action captivated me because we were installing an Ethereum wallet, so she needed help in that. And that's how basically I started my journey in blockchain, installing it. And then we decided, oh my God, this is too hard. And how it is normal people that can do it. And we founded the CryptoChicks, which was a nonprofit startup. And we decided to focus on women, to help women with the same journey that we went through installing a wallet. And of course, it got bigger. We started organizing events. Our first event in Toronto, we made a call to the women of the world to join us for the hackathon. At that time, everybody laughed at us because they say, oh, there's no women in this space. What are you hoping for? And we had 170 women that flew in Toronto from all over the world.
Wow.
And that's how we started, because we were not entrepreneurs back then. We were hit with the bills by venue that we rented and didn't have money to pay for that. So we get on the phone and start calling the companies. And as a result, we were sponsored by IBM, Microsoft, Accenture, Deloitte. So all these big companies, they actually went with it and supported us, all the women that came, and lots of women that built projects there. They actually received the jobs from these companies. And also some of the companies took their business ideas and developed them further. So some people that were joining us on Zoom, for example, from Zimbabwe. Still, IBM, for example, took one project out of Zimbabwe and developed it. So this resulted in so many good things that inspired us. And yeah, we continued further. But in a few months, I met my future co-founders from Metis, and they came forward. Kevin Liu came forward with the idea of creating this ecosystem to build the Web3 economy where every company can find its place and to be easily onboarded on chain. And that was a very great idea for me, because at that point we were thinking on how we can onboard all these women with great business ideas on chain easily, so they don't spend money on the developers, let's say. So that is something that was very close to what we were doing back then with CryptoChicks, and we went together with this idea. So there was lots of thinking, and then we launched the network. We started from the infrastructure, because at that point Ethereum was extremely expensive, and we couldn't find any decentralized layer 2 that we wanted to be at. So we decided to build our own. And that's what resulted in the Metis Layer 2. Right now, we continue building further the decentralization and also all the support for this onboarding of the companies. We keep realizing our dream in that sense.
Fantastic. That is the perfect start to the conversation. Elena, Let's go back to CryptoChicks, right? I think something like I used to be a computer science teacher here in Taiwan a few jobs ago. And one of the things I found is like I might start like a basic computer science class, like teaching kids in elementary school, and we might be like 50% girls, 50% boys. But as we gain levels, the girls usually leave. And I always used to ask my sister-in-law is a computer programmer in England. I'm like, hey, what am I doing wrong? And so I guess I want to ask you, so what is crypto doing wrong that we don't have enough women in the space?
Yeah, so this is a very good question. And at the time that I started working on focusing on bringing women into the space, I asked myself this question and I did a lot of digging, and because I am the target audience, I'm the woman. So there was like several outcomes out of this. So first, I found, and some people not gonna like it with all the equality and stuff. First, my understanding that women are different creatures because we still have our natural, we have hormones, and we have, of course, this duty to populate the world with our children, right? And then there's nobody, maybe you have to account for that, Simon, for that role of the women as well. And yes, sometimes women go away and do these things, like, for example, they bring up the children, they focusing on the family, and therefore naturally maybe women don't stick around at certain industries or certain professions that require more intense involvement. And that's fine. And that's okay, because there are periods in a woman's life we can come back. Like, for example, for me, I have 2 children myself, and I had to do that at that point, go away and just work on my children, on my family. But then I came back and I have this period of time when I'm working in the profession, when in the industry, very active. And that probably you see when you have this, girls are in the industry, maybe like even in school when they're working hard with their subjects, and sometimes boys are even better than girls because they have probably, I don't know, long attention span or something like that, something different in the hormonal level there. But then they go away and they do things that actually more important in a woman's life, and it's fine. And it happens like this, so it's natural. So we don't try to bring women that not focusing right now at the moment in this industry, but those who are and those who want, we help them. So we're not pulling women and say, hey, you have to come, this is the greatest thing, and then you have to, drop everything else. No, if you want to, there is an opportunity and you're welcome. So that's the approach that we're taking, and that was the most practical approach. And we see right now in the industry, there are lots of women. So if you go to the conferences, to the crypto conference, that the amount increasing and increasing. Before that, I went to those, and I was probably, me and Natalia were the only girls in the room at that time. But now it's changed. It's changed dramatically. Definitely more women are involved, but this is not a pull exercise. This is just the opening the door exercise for them, for us, and so they could come.
Oh, nice. Okay. So there's definitely more women participating in the crypto industry, which is always good. Like, diversity is really good. Talking about Metis, one of the things with Metis is that it's like, I think a few weeks ago, we had your former employee, Kari Wei, like she's also from Taiwan, and she was on the podcast as well, and she was talking about Metis, and she was like, hey, did you know Metis has the lowest cost layer 2 transaction? I was like, oh my God, I did not know that. And I think there's so much about Metis that people know the name, people know about Andromeda, but crypto has so much information, and it's like Twitter, YouTube, like every single source, Instagram, TikTok, and it's hard to distill it down to its core values. So what I want to ask you is if someone asks you to explain Metis, like today in 2023, what would you like to say?
Okay, awesome. Thank you for the opportunity to answer this question. Metis is what we say, it's a Web3 economy. So the whole idea is to build an economy so every business or every person feels very comfortable on chain. So working together in the common economy and building this economy is the purpose of Metis ecosystem. But first, of course, we started with a layer 2, and layer 2 that had to be very suitable for businesses. And that like our businesses in the Web 2 and even in the Web 3, they cannot afford to wait for every transaction, and they cannot afford to pay even 50 cents for every transaction. So this is something that we focused first and foremost on, providing this enterprise grade transactional capacity, so in terms of the speed and the cost that companies can use. And we succeeded in that. And that was the first step in our plan to build the Web3 economy. What we're doing further now is we are building the infrastructures for the companies to actually get easily on board. So we're doing it via tools and that we call them econodes that exist in our system. Econodes means business, the company, decentralized autonomous company that we call them. It doesn't mean that there is a physical node computer. It's not a node, it's a kind of like business node, econode, ecosystem node. So econode like Chorus, for example, is realizing the infrastructure to onboard those businesses and onboard their employees to do the future of work. Now that we went into the remote work, it is very important for people. The perspective is changing right now. So you don't need to be now at your workplace to work. You can work from any part of the world. And we want to facilitate that and even to create new markets on how these people can work without being even summoned by one company. Maybe they can work on multiple ones, and all this can be tracked on the blockchain, and we're building an infrastructure for that. For the future of work, also for the businesses to use these people that can work in this capacity. So this is one part. And the second part, what we're building is the user experience, because in a blockchain, you have to be pretty savvy to have a wallet, hold your private keys, store them in secure location, do all this work around so you wouldn't get hacked. So we also have Nuvo that taking care of this user experience and user security when the user can log in with the username and password and allow them still to store their private key, but they have this simple way to log in and also simple interface to communicate as well. And we also building for the providers, for example, for the easy onboarding of the users, there is a way for the users to pay no gas fees, but the provider pays for them. It calls the BLS wallet technology, and this is something that also Nuvo does. Also, what Nuvo provides is the reputation power on chain. It means that all the deeds that you do on chain is going to be rewarded with the reputation power. So even though you don't have your name, identity, picture there, you can always present with your reputation power, say, hey, I am experienced user. Hey, I'm already excelled in this and that. And without even people looking into your background or profile, they know right away that you can be trusted. So this is things that we're building for. So is this onboarding of the businesses and people onto this Web3 economy. That's what Metis is about.
Nice. It sounds like you have this vision of, I would say, and I've spoken to a few founders and a few projects over the last few months, is that in 2023, I feel like layer twos, not even layer twos, a lot of crypto companies are moving away from seed phrases and MetaMask. They're moving into like a Web 2 experience, but in Web 3. Something you'd like logging in with the email and password on Facebook, two-factor authentication, something people are used to, familiar with. And so it would make them like more comfortable getting into Web 3. Do you think that's correct?
That is very correct, because it's all defined by the audience that we go after. And we go after, of course, we allow our Web3 audience that are currently now, but we're looking into the future when we provide a service to people who are outside of Web3. And therefore, for them, we need to make this barrier as low as possible to onboard. Yes, and if you tell a person that he now has to jump through the hoops and create this MetaMask wallet and store and record their seed phrase and store it in this way, and they say probably after 5 minutes they say, never mind. So yes, we want to, of course, to lower the barrier and to make it as secure as possible, of course, and to make it also, and that's a very good point. So there is this term decentralization, and everybody understands it differently. So for me, decentralization is removing any single point of failures. It means that like person that comes on to your network, it's not at mercy of the founders of the network or the holders of the keys. A danger that the holders of the keys, they just take their money and go somewhere else, because it happened before with many ecosystems. Yes, and that is also looking into providing this safe service to the people so they can easily onboard and easily and securely use this great technology that we all build.
Nice. One of the things I wanted to ask as well is if somebody goes into your LinkedIn profile, right, I'll see like Elena SineInikova, DC, right? And it says like Decentralization Coordinator. And I don't think I've ever seen another founder have those cool letters at the end of their name. And I was just curious because you've talked about decentralization a few times already, right? So
Yes.
what is a decentralization coordinator?
Again, as I said, so removing all the single point of failures. Like when we just started building Metis, it was a startup with just few people in it. And I was appointed as a CEO, and my main role was to build the team, to build this machine that can actually realize our dream, and machine in the sense of that it's working without that much interaction from the CEO, let's say, or anything from above. And once I succeeded doing that and we built this business machine, have all the teammates in place, so there's no need for me to be there and to be the leading. I still can be the leader, but I remove myself as the dependency. If something happens to me, let's say that I gonna go and take care of my family for some time, the whole ecosystem not depends on me. So therefore, decentralization coordinator is more accurate now role for me, and we actually have other decentralization coordinators that's doing that right now, is supervising different areas. And for this econodes that we built, we have Metis layer 2 econode, we have a Nuvo econode, we have Chorus econode, they all run by the teams. But we're making sure that the collaboration between these teams is built in a healthy way, and they don't fall, in a certain pitfall. So going like an education almost for these econodes. And at some point, and I'm hoping that's what is going to happen, then my role maybe wouldn't be even needed. So we can build this system with the on-chain governance, where the role of the leader that started it is diminished to the bare minimum, but the network still works and thrives. And that's what my goal is. That's how I envision my role, that it will be diminished over time, and it's fine, because the decentralization is way more important.
So is that your long-term vision? Are you like envisioning like a typical like adult would be like, okay, I'm gonna hit this age and then I'm gonna retire and just spend time looking after my kids and my husband and my family? And are you just gonna get out of crypto totally and just relax, or is that what you want?
It's never, I can plan whatever I want. What life has in store for me is a completely different thing. And I don't plan to retire anytime soon. But I would like to, again, my goal was to build this system that can work without me, that I can choose whether to attend this system or I can build something new as well, something later. So, maybe I can build on top of this system something else too. So naturally, I am a creator, so I can create, I can jumpstart things, I can create things, but maybe then in order to, after that, to take over, it should be some other system and some other means. So that is, if you're asking about me, everybody is different. And we have 3 co-founders and we all are different. So we all cover different areas. But the vision is the decentralization. It means that building this system that works. So first of all, without Metis team, that's why we organize the infrastructure in the most decentralized way with the decentralized sequencers. And it also without this lead management team. So for us, the task is to build governance the way that there is no leadership needed. It can be decided collectively by the system that we build, by the governance that we build. So to completely detach ourselves. And then we already have a choice whether we stay or we go. Most likely we choose to stay, of course. Who's going to abandon their babies?
Of course.
Yeah.
Nice. One of the things I would like to talk to you about as well is we have a research team at 21 Code, 21 Shares, and they're all about layer 2s, and everyone on Twitter and in the crypto space would be like, okay, the name Optimism rolls off the tongue, or Arbitrum, or ZK Sync, or Polygon Hermes, and then there's TVL, of course. They're like, hey, this has X TVL and this has X TVL. And I remember I spoke to one of the co-founders of Boba Network as well, and he was like, TVL doesn't matter. We're building an infrastructure. We're building, in the case of Boba, it was like machine learning and being able to use machine learning off-chain. So what I wanted to ask you is, with all this competition, all this like attention focused on TVL and other L2s, like how is Metis differentiating itself?
Yeah, very good questions. We are also in this race because right now the focus of the ecosystems, Arbitrum and Optimism, they all focusing as of now for DeFi. And this is a short-term vision for all the ecosystems. They all have different long-term visions though, right? So if you look more into this company, they all have a different long-term vision and maybe like completely opposite direction, but focusing on the different things. And it's beautiful because we all creating good stuff in the different areas. But as short-term vision for sure, TVL, because the DeFi, decentralized finance, it needs pools of money, which is TVL, right? So right now on the short term, and that's how these ecosystems support themselves. That's how they support their community. But as we develop, things are going to change and target audiences are changing as well. And new people is going to be coming into the ecosystem and the focus will shift as well. As today we have TVL, maybe tomorrow we will be counting the number of Web2 users that we onboarded and a number of transactions that Web2 companies did on chain. TVL is just a short-term goal for now that is naturally can define where are you in this competition race. But again, focusing on the long-term vision, again, supporting the short-term, we would like to still have our DeFi users there and them happy and them using our ecosystem because they are our community. And we do the steps continuously to make them happy. For example, just recently we onboarded Avi infrastructure into Metis. And right now we are helping the builders who are building on top of Avi. And of course, this all results in the DeFi users to be happy here. So that's for sure. This is short-term goal still in place, but we're building towards the long-term goal, which is Web2 people, Web2 companies, and that is going to yet to. And again, all the ecosystem also have the long-term goal for the Web2 users, Web2 companies. Right now is TVL. Tomorrow is going to be different things. Yeah, you'll see.
Okay, that's got to be my favorite thing you've said so far on this show is like the idea that it's Web2 users, right? That it could even be that metric, like people always talk about DAU, right? Daily active users. And like when Facebook has their earnings calls or TikTok or YouTube, I'm like, we had X million users on. And I'm like, and this is what people like, okay, even if you're not making the most amount of money, but if you have all these users, right? And they're active and they're real people, that's what matters to like analysts. And that's cool. So you talked about onboarding Web2 users, and we've talked about this a few times already on today's podcast. But do you see that in the future as you having a Metis sales team going to Domino's Pizza and saying, hey, Domino's, do you want transparency in the way you produce pizzas and deliver them and verification, that sort of stuff? Would you like us to help you onboard you into Metis? Is that sort of the way, or is it building something cool and them coming to you? Like what's the vision for that?
Marketing is very and business development probably very big in our space and every business as well. It's a main part of the business. Though my understanding and my happy path of the business that it doesn't need to be advertised and it doesn't need to have a marketing because the word of mouth will do it. And building system that onboard users that can going to bring other users, just the word of mouth is, hey, look, like for example, Uber or Airbnb, that's exactly what probably they did. At least I learned it from my friends. And then I would like to build this system like this, that you learn from each other and naturally users will come to you. Users will be glad to pay this 1 cent fees that we have on our network just to use this service to hop on this next great thing that we build. And once people come, businesses will too. Businesses will follow as well because businesses always follow where the people are.
That's true.
They always look for the new audience. They always go to where people are. So again, so this is the strategy that at least I believe in and I want to implement. Again, this is not simple or trivial task. Building a thing that doesn't need marketing is a hard task. It is very few businesses that actually was able to do out there, but they exist. And I believe we're going to be next one.
Nice. It's like you're doing something so cool and so interesting. I just wish there was more coverage behind it. One of the things I want to ask you as well is I feel there's been like an increasing narrative or a story like this year of, hey, crypto is moving away from like the individuals, from the regular Joe and Jane or mom and dad, and it's moving more towards institutions, right? We've seen banks and MasterCard and Visa get involved. And some like hardcore crypto people, okay, this is bad. The companies are going to take over crypto. Is that something you think we should be worried about, or it doesn't matter?
And as I said, businesses go where the people are. There's no way for Visa to go into crypto if there are no people there, if there are no clients there, right? Probably they considering crypto as an investment vehicle, but this is a short term again. As I said, right now, everything is DeFi focused and everything is investment focused, and this time is going to pass. They will stay in some capacity, but the focus is going to be different. So when they say that, yes, like we're going to focus on bringing Visa in, it's a good thing. If you manage to bring Visa in and get you interested in this small amount of people that are right now in Web3, then, it's cool. It's great. So please do it. But I don't think it's going to be that big without people on the platform. So people still come first, in my opinion.
Okay. To some developers, like zooming out, like developers watching this video or listening to the podcast, right? They're like, okay, maybe they might be developing on Polygon or Binance Smart Chain or something like that. And they'd be like, okay, what Elena says is really interesting. I want to start building on Metis. Like, what would you recommend as their first step? Of course, go to the website, check out the docs, but what's next after that?
Next, we have a grant. So right now what we are doing as well, so we are building the governance for the grant distribution that is done by the community with community voting, so that people decide who receives the grant. So right now these grants are handled by our BizDev team, and this is short term. And right now you can fill in the application for the grant, and then the grant we take very seriously. All good ideas, all the good projects getting looked at and analyzed by our team. So if you go to metis.io and you search for the grant, so you can find the grant application, you can apply there. So that would be the first step. But of course, in order to receive the grant, you need to prove that you are capable of executing it. So make sure that when you fill the application, you focus on that point, on why you are good to execute. I think one of the first steps on receiving funding, and of course, if you already have a good idea, or if you already built on some other network, it's easier for us to evaluate that and see where you stand. Again, if you just have an idea, it's also great. So don't be discouraged just if you just have an idea, still fill the grant application and we'll look into it too. So that is a path that we're using right now to onboard new projects, new partners. Also, the other way could be to look who we partnered with and maybe partner with them. If you are building on top of some other network, let's say Avi, that we brought in, and if you have great ideas on how Avi can be improved and you want to build this next thing on Metis, it's a great opportunity to do so now, because we're right now focusing on those builders. Yes, and also if you have any idea on how to easy onboard people and how to create this newest and greatest things that can attract Web2 users, that would be the winner of the grant application, because this is our direct focus.
Okay.
Yes.
That's really interesting. I want to talk about something, because I just got like a question. We have a Telegram group for all the podcast listeners. And I told them, yeah, we're recording at 10 p.m. Taiwan time. And I just got a question. And I want to remind everyone, you're not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. You don't give legal advice. I don't give legal advice. Whatever you say is just your opinion. One of the big pieces of news that came out this month was like Binance, okay, we're out of Canada, right? And I'm not sure where Metis is based, but I know you're based in Canada. And of course, American legislation is totally going in not the best direction at the moment. Are you worried about crypto legislation? Do you think Europe or Hong Kong is the place to be for crypto companies?
I'm personally located as of currently right now in Toronto, yes, in Canada. And at least our co-founders are all here. But we have the team, because Metis is now big ecosystem, big team. We are all over the world. Basically, there's no country in the world where we are not. Like there is a Metis person in every country, I think, right now, as of now. So yes, and our mandate and our value is the decentralization. There is no borders. So there is no siding with anyone, because we are for everyone. So we are building so the people can have equal rights and equal capacity to come and use the technology the way that they choose to. So this is the fundamental value for us. So as per the regulations, let's say, I am all for them because they protect people. But what is happening right now, I think there is not such protection happening at all. There's a punishment that happening, that going after the innovators and trying to restrictions. So the restrictions are not protection. So there is like a different focus that is executed by regulators, but I think this is just a lack of knowledge. So this is just a scare that it is easier to prohibit than to work with. And that's right now the strategy that is implemented. I don't agree with, but who I am to talk about it. But maybe, someone from the regulators, when you hear this podcast, if you could reach out to us, because we would love to help. We would love to build regulations. We would love to have everyone protected, but protected, not prohibited. So I would like to make this emphasis. And again, it is possible. Crypto is, in a sense of the transparency, it's way more transparent than any other security. And that because the security regulations, they exist in a place to provide transparency for people to see where they put their money for. Crypto by itself already transparent in that sense. So it's safer, in my opinion, but I think it's not being looked at as such because of the human errors and scams that going on. But again, together we can work towards more constructive regulations and easier for the people and more safer for the people to use this technology, because people still using it anyways. They're just not protected enough. And removing certain companies from countries, it's never like with the level of technology that right now never works, because people have VPNs and nobody found a way around it yet. They're like just prohibiting it, just spending so much effort on something that could be actually spend the same effort onto building together and creating something together rather than restricting. Restrictions not going to work with the blockchain. And at some point, regulators are going to realize that. In some countries, they already do. It's never going to work because we work without the borders. We don't need to ask anyone, people onboarding on blockchain just because they have a computer at home, just because they have internet at home. Unless you prohibit internet, then there's nothing you can do. And the regulator is not going to prohibit internet, that's for sure. So that is something that, my thoughts. And again, if the regulators are hearing this podcast, I would love you to reach out to me, and I would love to help with the regulations.
Okay, I will mention that. I do know one or two who do listen. Elena, this has been such a fantastic podcast. My favorite thing that you've just said was like, protect, not prohibit, which is better than what you said already before. That is like a key phrase, and I wish we could tattoo it on some regulator's heads or put it on a government building somewhere. I don't want to take too much of your time. It is the morning. It is Friday. I'm sure you've got lots of things to do. I really appreciate your time today. And I just want to end off today's podcast, give you a chance to say whatever you want about Metis, about CryptoChicks, as much time as you want, no time restrictions. The floor is yours. Anything else you'd like to mention today?
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for giving me this floor. Again, I don't feel comfortable advertising and say, hey, you have to hold on Metis, it's assigned to the CryptoChicks. Yeah, I would like just to talk to people and say, listeners to this podcast, if you're interested in anything that I said, please reach out to me. Please, you can go to metis.io. You can check our ecosystem. So who we are. We're building, again, next great thing for sure. And there's a future to it. At CryptoChicks, we provide the education for people. So you can go to cryptochicks.ca as well. So whatever you can use, please use. If you don't have money to use it, reach out to us. We can help you, because our mandate is to help anyone that wants to be helped. And we did already like 2 million people. So yes, door is open, cryptochicks.ca, metis.io. You can find me on Twitter, Elena CryptoChick with a C at the end. So you can find me there, and you can ask me any questions through the Twitter. You can find me on LinkedIn, Elena SineInikova of Metis and CryptoChicks. You can look at too. Again, I am very open to any questions, so please reach out.
Fantastic. And I know our audience, they loved Kara because her like videos are like one of our best performing videos on our YouTube channels. I know they're gonna love you and Metis, and it's so cool, right? It's like we got to talk about Nuvo. Now we get to talk about the layer that Nuvo is on top, which is Metis, and we got to hear more about the infrastructure. So just an awesome podcast today, and I really appreciate it. Everyone, so if you're listening, right, don't forget to follow Elena. Her details are down. So if you click on that show more button on YouTube, if you click on show notes in the podcast app of your choice, whether it's Apple or Spotify, her Twitter and LinkedIn will be there. Make sure to follow her, ask her questions. If you're shy, right, you can message me on Telegram. I can forward them to her. I'm sure she'll love to answer them as well. And don't forget to tune in next week for another podcast, another interview, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you.